ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. This is the 73rd episode of the Political Spotlight. I am your host, Kristopher H. Bilbrey. The title of this episode was picked out by none other than Mr. Mayor-elect Joe Black. We don't even need the election tomorrow. We already know who the mayor is going to be. Mr. Mayor Joe Black. He picked out the name of this episode like 2 or 3 or 4 days ago. Time for a Change. That's the name of the show, episode 73. Somehow he knew it was going to be episode 73, even though I took a day off. I don't know how he did that. Hello, world. How are you doing? I hope you're having a great day. Of course, this is my Christmas Eve, the night before the big day. Let's see here. Give me 1 second here. Let me make sure we've got this shared everywhere it needs to be shared to. I almost got it there. Let's see here. Yes. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so, yes, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. I wanted to make sure we could get this shared everywhere. We've got quite a bit of things to talk about this evening. Quite a bit of things to talk about. We will get to all of that. But before we get into all of the craziness, yes, Mary. Before we get into all of that craziness, we have a guest that's going to be joining us here. And this is going to be kind of an interesting little deal because this guest reached out to a friend of mine and said, hey, I'd like to pop on. Of course, this is someone that if you have followed Muncie politics, if you know Muncie politics, obviously, if you live in Muncie, you'll know who this person is. This person is not on the ballot for tomorrow, unfortunately, but is still here for the next couple months. So we're going to be joining with this guest and seeing what he has to say. He had some words he wanted to say this evening, so we're going to give him a little bit of time to say what he's got to say and maybe pick his brain, kind of see what all we can get from him. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and welcome none other than Mr. Councilor for District 5. District 6. Mr. Roger Overbey. Roger, hello.
Hello, Kristopher. How are you?
All right. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. You know, you and I have talked about for several years getting together, you coming to my studio and being on the show I had on public access for years and years and vice versa. So I'm glad we're doing it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. No problem. So, well, you weren't running around sticking signs out at the tonight, so you had a little bit more of a relaxing evening than some folks did, but I'm sure you were still doing some work.
I offered some, and you know, I haven't been very politically active this summer because you know, I had some health issues. I'd done a couple of months in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber and a PICC line in me and antibiotics. They said I had a infection in my toe, and I asked the sawbones there. I said, well, what are we going to do about it? He said, well, we're going to cut your toe off. I said, no, you're not. And, let's try plan B. When I done plan B, and it was kind of a rough summer, but I kept my toe. That's a good thing.
Yes.
And I just had a kind of a minor surgery last week, and I'm still a little sore, but I've been doing my counselor job, and I've told people, even though I didn't win in the primary, I'm going to do my job till the very last day and try to be active in that. And you know, the things that, you know, I'm going to say and talk about is I'm not going to be real political because I don't think an office holder should be super political, but I think, people can read between the lines. And if I talk about somebody, I'm going to sound like a mob boss here. It's not personal, it's business.
Sure.
And it is business. I mean, we have business in this city that we need to take care of. And, I've followed you through the years and got to know you during the end of the last administration that I was a media director there, and I was on the board of works, and I followed what you've done, and you've been, we don't always agree on everything, but you've been an advocate for the taxpayers, and I salute you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. You've done a lot of good work, and I definitely agree. I think the more people that there are taking a look at what's going on and spreading the word, it basically what it can do, it can give people a chance to go to the sides that they fit with, people who might be more conservative or libertarian or might be more liberal or whatnot. And it also gives the people who want a little bit of it all a chance to, taste a whole bunch of different, of the dishes. Mm-hmm. And so it gives, it's a little bit better because it gives more eyes. That's never a bad thing. It's more disinfectant, getting everybody a chance to be under that white hot spotlight. And so I think that's important.
Speaking of which, I'm under one right now. I'm in the Millennium Studio, and since 1996, we started a show on public access called Community Focused.
Yes.
And that was a community show. We tried to inform the people about the community, what was going on without being political, really. And we give everybody a say. A lot of people liked it because they got to see what was going on in Muncie. And we really tried to promote Muncie and let people know that Muncie is a good place and, to be informed. And I had a lot of people say, hey, you was at this event, and that event, and I wasn't able to be there, but I could see it on TV through your show. And we done that. I done that show until 2020 was the last community focused show I put out. So that was a long run.
Yes, absolutely.
And in that time, I'd worked for different mayors and sheriffs and done the sheriff's show. Different variations of that. I done when Dan Cannon was mayor, he contracted me for 10 years, and I done things with the city during his administration. And it's something refreshing, he said, and I'll never forget this. He said, after I'd worked there for a while and done all these shows and videos, he said, I don't know what your politics are. I don't care. You do a good job. I thought, wow. Wow, that's refreshing. I love that. Right. And during that time, what was funny, because you know how volatile you've been around. And I used to, your grandmother, God rest her soul, I was her vice precinct committeeman for a while.
Yeah.
And she got me under her wing and was teaching me, the ropes on politics. But I, at that point in time back then, on one side of the street, I worked for a Republican city government, and I crossed the street and I was working for a Democrat county government, the commissioners back then, and nobody cared. Everybody says, hey, you do a good job. That's all we care about. Right. So that was a good time. But one thing I wanted to talk about is, and I'm going to not go chronological here, but, I tell people that when it come up for the caucus for the District 6 seat when Anitra Davis resigned, my wife and I talked about it. And I said, I never wanted to be a politician. She goes, well, you've always been one. You just done it behind the scenes. And I said, well, that's a comfortable place. I like that. But, I gave it a try. I liked working with people. I liked the people in the neighborhoods. And I tried to do the very best I can. And what gets me is when people are running for council seats in a district, and I hear them say, well, I get in there, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Well, that depends on what administration is in there and if they're going to work with you. Because trust me when I say, and I found out this, if the administration don't work with you, you're not going to get as much done as you wanted to get done.
Yes.
I know that for a fact. And, people have asked me about my vote on when we tabled the fire station thing. And it was nothing against the fire department. I want them to have a station. I was leery about the buy, operate, transfer. I was leery about the amount of money they're talking about. And I'm going to show you right here. Here's a picture of back in about 1996. You'll see a young Eddie Bell there.
I was going to say, I saw Eddie.
And Tommy Crawford.
Yeah.
I think that's O'Brien and Terry Moore and a couple.
Looks like there's quite a few young guys in there.
Yeah. And I've always been, they helped the fire department, and the fire department union helped me out with what I was doing and sponsorship and things.
Sure.
And I always tried to be there for them. And, I love public safety, police and fire. And so, my thing is, and I told people, well, the thing about slowing it down, it gives us a chance to look it over. And Councilman Dishman and I spent a whole day one Sunday, and our wives, and went to other fire stations that GM had been involved in building, and some that they hadn't. And I talked to Greg Marks before that committee meeting and after for length. And I told him, I have nothing against you. You're a nice guy. And I said, we just want to ask questions. We want to fill in the blanks. I don't know if you remember, but I had the budget up there at the committee meeting, and there was some blanks in it. And I said, yes. What are these blanks? Well, that's in case we have to add something later. And the soil samples, that was kind of redundant and all this. There's a lot of questions there. And I met with Councilman Ingram a week ago, and he had some pictures of fire stations that was built cheaper. And I don't mean cheap like cheap, but sure. Less expensive. And, the amazing thing is I've talked to a lot of firemen, and some with rank, some rank and file. And, they've even said, well, that sounds pretty excessive. And, I'm glad you guys are looking into it. So, they're not upset. I even had somebody, Chris, say, you don't like the fire department? And I said, did you and your family take them food during the COVID when they had going and getting food? Have you been there for pictures with Santa or help promote Toys for Tots? No. Well, we have. Right. And we're pro firemen, but we just want to make sure, because if they can build a station for less than almost $8 million and pass that money around to do other things that they need. And I've had firemen tell me, well, we actually need more manpower. Yeah. We actually need a couple more ambulances. And you remember almost 4 years ago, how we fought for fire-based EMS. Yep. Very much needed. And the people who are against it now, after it's got going and making some money and working, think it's the greatest thing since peanut butter. Absolutely. So, absolutely. Yeah, we didn't kill it, but we voted to table it and give it a close look-see, because my name's on the resolution, but sure. I was going to bring it up, talk about it, and, mull it over for a while and see, what we can find out about. I've been to one meeting with them about a year ago, and I got one other email. That's all I got. Sure. I went through them meticulously to see what have I got here. And, I think they wanted us to do a 10-minute presentation and say, okay, vote on it. Right. And I wasn't comfortable with that.
Well, yeah, it's like 10 minutes for nearly, $8 million for one fire station. Wow, we now because you guys didn't vote on it that night, and I'll say thankfully that you guys didn't vote on it that night. We are now, as a city of Muncie, aware that we are in a position where we're now going to be tearing down a building on workman's property and building a new building that we have been locked into. That's going to be a couple $1,000,000. There's another building that's getting ready to go out for bids, a pole barn that's going to be built, and that's going to be, maybe at least $1,000,000. You're looking at that, and the fact that just on the face, we've got 6 or 7 other 5 other fire stations where they also need equipment, they need patches, they need repair. Probably all of the stations in Muncie need to be redone at some point. So it's just like this just didn't make sense to do this in a 10-minute presentation, vote, and wham bam, thank you, ma'am. It just did not make sense.
And Chris, a lot of the firemen, some of them I've talked to, has said, I wish they hadn't have brought it up when they did. I mean, right before an election.
Yes.
And, that has all the prior looking at that, saying, we're going to slide this in before an election. And it made it political. It made it a political football. And that's not the way to do things.
Yep.
It's not the way to do things. And I've talked to people in the neighborhoods, that fire station. I remember when McShirley closed that fire station.
Oh, yes.
One of the people to try to rally the troops and say, we need that open because we don't have any fire protection or first responders on this side of the tracks. And that's one of the reasons I was a big proponent of fire-based EMS, because on this side of the tracks, our neighborhoods, if that train comes through and especially stops like it does, their response time drops way down.
Oh, yeah.
Way down. And, when there's a building burning or somebody, it's like my dad, and I've said this several times, I had to call for my dad. He lived the last 2 years of his life with us, and I live here in Morningside. And, there was a train there. We couldn't get, it was taking a while to get help here. And when you can't breathe, seconds seems like hours.
God, yeah, absolutely. It's yeah.
But, and this, when you talk about the previous council, the last council, last administration, look who was on that council who was against fire-based EMS. Mm-hmm. And now, it's like, oh, wow, that's great. But back then, it wasn't a good idea. Oh, right. If it's not up and running, I'll kill it.
Yes. Yep.
When I take office, I'll kill it.
Yep.
Well, I was told by some firemen that the projected revenue next year is supposed to be like 4.1 million.
Yeah.
And I don't, I have no way right now to check and make sure that's accurate, but they know the, procedure and the budget better than I do on that and what's projected. But even if that's close, and if they're making money, and you heard Eddie Bell say, if it saves lives, we're not that concerned about the money. Right. But it was making money, it was saving lives, so it was a good thing.
Yeah, right.
And on the Board of Works, if you remember, I was president of the Board of Works, and the administration kind of went around the council and come to us. And my question, I had the city attorney there. My first question, I said, for the record, is this legal? And it was. And, we caught some flack over it.
Sure.
Calls Three Stooges and this and that. But
absolutely.
Now nobody's complaining about the fire-based EMS.
Well, and for the record, for the record there, and I want to make sure that this is definitely out. I put this out 4 years ago, and 4 years ago when I put this out 4 years ago, I was on then Councilor Ridenauer's election team. I wanted him elected as mayor. I thought it would be a great idea, all this. But even then, and that was before I really kind of was pushing back against him, I made sure that people knew this because I thought that transparency was important even then. And that was Dan Ridenauer, as a council member, had talked to Chief Bell, then Chief Bell, at a function, and had talked to Chief Bell about fire-based EMS, about the election, about how to run it, if it should come through council, go through Board of Works. And Mayor Ridenauer, 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, told Chief Bell that it would be perfectly legal to take before the Board of Works. And if it went before the Board of Works, it would not become a political issue with the council. And because he was running for mayor, that's what he preferred. But then once it became a big ordeal, then it was like, oh, he didn't really come out and say that. And I have absolute, I've got proof of that. I have asked him, if he feels that's not true, come out and refute that. I've asked him to do so. He has not done that in 4 years. So, I will, I'll leave that for the citizens to make their mind up in what they believe there or not. But, it's just interesting because that is something that people need to know. He was well against him. And at the time, Councilor Brad Polk were very critical of the administration for trying to jam fire-based EMS in before the election. And that wouldn't happen if then Councilor Ridenauer was elected. Now he's elected. Now he's up for re-election, and this thing is going the way that it is. And I just think it's very hypocritical to be on both sides of that argument.
Well, and you're very right. And what I found out in the beginning, and again, I'm not trying to be political. I've always treated people with respect, even if I disagree with them. But as I used to say on Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am. And I'm, when I was on the Board of Works, and when Mayor Ridenauer was mayor-elect, and I got a letter from him saying, I'd like for all of you and all the department heads and everybody, not spend any more money than you have to and all this. And there come up a proposal to spend $50,000 for that artwork thing, and he can park. And I remember the city attorney, Mayor elect Ridenauer was in the audience, and he got up there and he asked where this money was coming from. And the attorney calls Dennis Tyler and said, where's this money coming from? And he said, edit. And he said, well, I'm glad it's coming from edit funds. Thank you for that. Well, we passed it. And then I checked and found out, there was a deficit in the edit funds. And, they have a tax draw every so often, but it wasn't in there at the time. So I asked the board later to rescind it because I wasn't going to write a check we didn't have.
I remember that. I remember you doing that, Roger. Absolutely, 100%.
And, but when you want talking about communication and transparency, I tried to call him and talk to him about that because I felt like, okay, we're passing the torch here.
Yeah.
We're passing the power, and, let's have some communication. So, we're not getting jammed up here and all that. Wouldn't return my call several times. And, and you and I have talked about this before. One of the things, and I don't want to sound like I'm whining, but I know politics. I've been around, and department heads are usually whacked when the new administration. But, here I was making $30,000 doing the media stuff. And I'm the one who got the live stream stuff in because I knew that was the future. I knew one of these days, everybody's going to say, you need to live stream these meetings. And we did. And, when you replace somebody, you replace them with somebody who can do the job.
Yes.
You don't replace them with two people who can't do the job and pay them. You know, as a taxpayer, I was getting $30,000 a year. I didn't need a lot of money. I'm retired. I got a good pension, this and that. But I was getting $30,000 a year, and I was working my tail off. And then the people now, and they went through what, 5 media people?
Yes.
And then contract a guy to do the live streaming. When you figure that out, their salaries and the media director, which is a department head, benefits, you're talking about $90,000.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of money. Now, if you want to get somebody, you know, say, oh, I'm going to get somebody from Allstate, TCOM major, been involved in the public information office, this and that, and they can do the job, that's fine.
Sure.
The person that really could have done that job was Corey Olenkamp.
Ah, yes.
He had, you know, he was a reporter, the journalism, the writing ability, the editing ability, the camera ability, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, to his credit, he left for a higher paying job, which I don't blame him. But that was the guy who could have done the job.
And I'll tell you, I'll be honest about Corey. I could not stand him as a reporter on the Star Press, but as the communications director, I got along with him very well. And he for the 2.5 weeks he was there, he did a great job for 2.5 weeks. And I wish he would have stuck around, honestly. But yeah, I mean, he went left for a higher job. I do want to ask you a follow-up question to a statement. You said, I know who you're talking about, but just for the audience. You said when you were on the Board of Works, you called and you said he would not return your calls.
I talk about
right now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to double check.
Sorry,
No, you're fine.
Admitted that, but yeah, I tried to communicate, and I thought, well, you know, since we're passing the torch, you know, and we're dealing with, you know, the Board of Works deals with a lot of money every week.
Sure.
And you know, I thought, well, okay, I'll be the guy, and you know, we'll try to communicate and tell him what's going on with this, because I thought, you know, if you want to do the $50,000 donation, and that's what it was, a donation for the artwork, when you get in as mayor, go for it.
Yeah.
But if that money's not in there right now, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, out of courtesy, I'd say, hey, I'm going to tell you what I'm planning to do here. But there wasn't communication. Now, to Mayor Ridenour's credit, I did talk to him when he was on the council. He talked about the parks, and you know, my wife and I had donated land to Morningside Park to make it bigger. And I asked him, I said, if you get elected, I really hope that you can, you know, pay attention to our park and help us out there in Morningside. And to his credit, he did. Now, we had a little problem with some money that was supposed to be for our wish list in the park. And then the park superintendent come in and said, well, we're going to put this and this and this in there. Well, it wasn't on our wish list. They knocked money off there. But Aaron Clark and I and Deputy Mayor Ivy and Mayor Ridenour, we all sat down. There's probably another person or two there, but we wrestled with it for a while. I gotta say, we wrestled with it, but we got it figured out. And we did get, with our ARP money from Morningside neighborhood, we did get this ADA compliant merry-go-round in our park. And they're going to use that as an example. It's pretty expensive to put in other parks, because the parks really don't have ADA stuff in them for people with wheelchairs. So, you know, we had a ribbon cutting on that. But, you know, other than that, I got to say, it's hard to communicate, and the transparency is not there, as you know. And I found out that more being on the council. And you know, one of the first things that I hadn't been on the council probably a week or two, and we was an architect, and he talked about buying the YMCA building, Mayor Reinhardt did,
Oh yeah.
for $500,000. And I said, why? Now, believe me when I say, I'm going to give you full disclosure, I am not an economic development genius. That's not my forte. I'm a PR promoter. I can build roads, and I can make videos, but I know enough about it to study it and say, does this look like a good plan? And the answer was, well, somebody's going to buy it. Well, let them buy it. We're not we're not a real estate company. We're a city.
Yeah.
And that's happening. The Justice Center. I couldn't believe when that was sold for $100, a whole city block, and then the money that was thrown into it, and utility bills. And there's a lot of people, and I'm echoing a lot of what my constituents say.
Sure.
They come to me and say, why did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't do it.
Right.
Some of that was done before I was there, but I agree. I mean, I agree with them. I disagree how some of that was done. Workman's Bar. When I found out, if somebody said, we're going to take the Y and we're going to make a rehab center out of it, because if people go to rehab, they got to go to Fort Wayne, they got to go to Indianapolis, and we're going to get medical people in there, and it's going to generate money, and we're going to take care of people here in our community. Yeah, okay. That sounds good. There's a ways probably to do that.
Sure.
But, just the way some of that stuff is done, I disagree with. And Workman's Bar, you covered that the other day. I don't want to be redundant on it, but that's just throwing money out there and throwing money out there and throwing money out. The paving, you might have seen what I posted Facebook last week, because that one lady you was talking about kind of called me out on the mayor's campaign page and said, I would compare, Roger Overbey said, I know a little bit about paving because I've done some paving. And I would compare the engineer's degree against anything he knows.
Yes, right.
Like I said, I never said I was smarter than the engineer.
Right.
Never said. But I will say this, I got almost 40 years of experience paving. I've built some day. And, when I seen DC construction paving a street and how they milled it, they didn't, there's water standing and this and that. There again, I tried to contact the mayor. Hey, maybe you ought to send your engineer out here and take a look at this, because this is wrong.
Yes.
Crickets.
Yeah.
Crickets. And right after I got on the council, here in Morningside, we got some guardrails down by Muncie Creek that's down. Some of them's been knocked down by a car. Some of them are down. There's places they need guardrails where there's a big ditch and creek there. And I asked, could we get some guardrails out there? I got a lot of people in Morningside asking about this. Well, it's going to cost a lot of money. Well, I remember there used to be guardrails at the highway building. Because, I've been out there.
Right.
And, I'll get out there sometime and look at it and see, and I'll get back with you. Well, it's been a year and a half. And I still got people asking about it. So that's why I say, when people say, I'm running for district so-and-so and I'm going to make changes. No, you're not. Unless you've got an administration in there that's going to work with you.
Right.
And other council members that's going to work with you. You can talk the talk.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to happen. And we need, less politics and more doing.
Yeah.
And we need, the biggest thing when I got on the council is people complaining about the streets, how bad the streets are. I get it. And, you know, you don't fix them overnight. But one thing I will say, and I was out at a union meeting, a lot of candidates was out there this spring, and some of the things that the current mayor was talking about with paving wasn't quite accurate, and things that's thrown back on the other administration. But talking about, well, they didn't mill the streets, we milled the streets. Well, I kept every picture, every video that I ever done working for the city. And I went back through them and I said, oh, well, there they are milling the street. There they are milling that street. And, you know, they did. Now, sometimes they didn't. And you showed last week or the other day pictures I took of the in-house paving crew.
Yeah.
Done. Now, we used to do a thing if we didn't mill a street called wedge and level. And that's when you set the screed down on the paver, you let it run, you drag that mix out, and you kind of level things up so you don't get grade reflection through the surface that you're about to lay.
Sure.
You get all the bumps and the cracks and crevices and all that. Now, doing that, I can honestly say anytime we've done it, and you know, that's one of the things that's a quickie. You drag it out, roll it, hit it real quick, and then you get ready to pave it for real. Anytime we done that was better than what you seen in them pictures. And I, again, I'm not blaming the street crew. Those guys work hard. They work hard. But, you know, they needed proper training.
Yeah.
And, you know, they didn't get it. And so they're out there paving this. And I had complaints from that neighborhood. So I went out there and took those pictures. Well, I wanted to make sure before I said anything that they didn't wedge and level it. They wasn't going to go back over and pave it. So I go up, talk to the communications director, and I said, told her where it was. I said, now, is this the finished product? And she goes, I'll get with you. And I said, email me. That way, you know, I got it on the record.
Yeah.
And she emails me, yep, I checked, and that's finished product. And that stuff, you could see it. It's already coming apart.
Yeah.
And those people out there are upset.
Yeah.
Blame them.
Right.
And if any crew I'd ever been on done anything like that back in the past, we'd have got fired.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm just impressed. I mean, because that was within the last week or two. I'm just impressed you got an email back from her.
No, this was when we communicated was during the summer.
Okay. I was going to say, because
I did get an email within a couple days.
Sure. And she was normally good about doing that. And then we hit about August, and that just all stopped as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and you know, the thing about it is, and you know, I've talked to a lot of people on the street department and different folks, and you know, they were being told, well, it's pouring rain out. It's pouring rain. And one, you shouldn't have people out in the rain anyway.
Yeah.
But it's pouring rain, and in traffic, when it's raining in inclement weather, is a safety hazard.
Yeah.
And then to add insult to injury, they're filling potholes. Now, anybody that's laid any asphalt at all knows that you have to have a clean, dry hole, maybe put some tack in it, and then put the hot mix in it, compact it down, and it might stay for a while. But when that hole's full of water, it's not going to stay.
Yes.
It's going to stay there. When traffic hits it, it's going to blast it right out. And I got potholes in this neighborhood that I've asked for them to come out and fix them. Again, people complained about them. They haven't been fixed yet. And, you know, I don't know if it's timing, business, whatever. But those same potholes was filled 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And now it's like you can't even tell they've been worked on. So we're just throwing money away here.
It's just throwing money away.
And, you know, well, you know, there again, I'm going to say why I voted for something. And I said that in that post I put, when it came up to want a inspector for
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And benefits, I was one of the people that voted no on it.
Yep.
There was other people. There's a Republican or two. I can't remember. I know one for sure. But if you're paying an engineer $80,000 a year, he should be out there using his expertise.
Yes, sir.
And
yes,
his
sir.
degree to make sure things are done right. That's just my humble opinion.
Yeah, I agreed with your sentiment on that 100%. I thought what you had to say on that was right on. I mean, your expertise in doing what you're doing, obviously, and I've never heard you say, I'm trying to come in and tell them how to be an engineer. You're just using common everyday language of, I've did this for a job, and this is what I've experienced, and this is what I believe, and sitting here, this is what I think. And you had the perfect argument for that, and you did the right thing, and your vote was solid on that.
Well, and again, when you look at, a department that's got way too many chiefs and not enough Indians, I don't think we need more bosses out there.
We just had a gentleman write that right in the comment, right as you just said it. They said it exactly as you did. Absolutely.
Well, my eyes and this light and everything, I see the comments, but I can't read them.
No, you're fine. That was just perfect. That was perfect timing.
But, and one of the other things that and you've heard me be a champion for is using local labor.
Oh, yeah.
And now, I've been in the laborers union. I've been in the UAW, and I retired from the operating engineers. I have about 36 years in operating engineers. But, the thing of it is, if you use a certain amount of local labor, that money stays in the community. And I remember when Mayor McShirley was mayor, and she had people telling her, if you use a contractor that's not union to pave the streets, you'll save hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I remember she was on my show, and she sat right over the side of me here. And I never ambushed anybody, but I thought, if she brings it up, I'm going to be armed to address that conversation. So it came up, and she was talking about how she going to save all this money by using non-union labor. Well, most non-union contractors can't fill the bids or do the job. I mean, look at DC construction. They had to get rid of them. So I said, well, Mayor, E&B Paving, which I work for right now, does most of the paving here in Muncie and Delaware County. And according to the figures I have, the employees here in Muncie, Delaware County, bring in their payroll about 2 point something million. I can't remember, several years ago. And I said, and E&B is a company, not the parent company, IMI, pay $38,000 and change in property taxes. Why do we want to shoot that down?
Yeah.
He says, where did you get this information? And I handed it to her. And I said, our corporate office 2 hours ago. Pointing at me like an ex-wife.
Yes.
But I mean, it's true. And, when I brought up Accutech, I had people call me and say, man, there's a bunch of Amish working there and all this. And that's when I asked Mayor Ridenhour about the responsible bidders ordinance, because we're supposed to have, a certain percentage of local labor involved in that. And I remember when he was on the council, he wasn't for that,
Yeah.
But, and it was brought up to him at one of the labor halls that he was at, and a lot of candidates at that this spring. Now, people said, what do you have against Amish? Well, I'd have nothing against Amish, except they don't live here.
Right.
They pay taxes. They don't spend their money here.
Right.
if they buy beer, their driver stops outside of our county somewhere and buys it there.
Right.
And you know, there was, even though that's a private entity, I believe that the city put in $750,000 of edit money to them.
For what?
Accutech.
Oh, yes.
So to me, that's tax money.
Yes, absolutely. Hell yes, it is.
I mean, edit money is at the mayor's discretion.
And we entered into some kind of bizarro deal for parking spaces for their employees. We throw them a bone about every chance right now gets. So yeah.
Yeah, and they're doing well. And
sure,
we took the tour almost 2 years ago. That Paisl's and a lot of that places that they've acquired, is supposed to be turned into a fancy restaurant, which I don't see that happening. All I'm saying is, and you've said it more than me, I don't care the politics of a mayor. If they're doing a good job and doing what they said they're going to do, they got my blessings.
Yeah.
But, I've had other office holders, different parties, Republican parties say, we don't have good communication, or the transparency could be better. Well, that again, and you heard me say it, I was disappointed in the that committee meeting because I surely thought that it was going to be live streamed. That is why that I got that stuff several years ago. And I was told one time to not stream a meeting, record it, but don't stream it. And I protested that. I mean, I'm not the final say. I've had people back in the day say, maybe you shouldn't live stream meetings. No, we started doing it. And if we quit doing it, people is going to be upset. They'll be up here with pitchforks and torches.
Absolutely.
So one of these days, it's going to be a law that all meetings are going to be live streamed because the technology is there.
Yep.
So we had to jump on the gun. We got everything live streamed. So it should be live streamed so people can see the transparency of what's going on.
Yeah.
Whether they like it or not. I took my comments. And when I was on the Board of Works, people making comments, but you know what? If you're going to be in the seat, you got to wear your big pants.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And so we, but yeah, I was all for it. We still got questions. There's people that couldn't be there at the time. And I don't know how that's going to pan out. I hope that we end up getting the fire department what they need.
Sure.
And, I've talked to Dan Burford about it, and I'll tell you, and I'll tell anybody that listens, whoever is the next mayor, I hope they put Dan Burford in as chief, because I've watched him over the years, 30 years about, and he's had a hand in all the maintenance and knows these stations like the back of his hands. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty on vehicles, and he knows all the equipment, and he's not political.
Yeah.
And he does his job. And I think he would be my choice of a fire chief. I really do.
He should have been named as fire chief by Ridenhour the first go around.
Day one.
If Ridenhour wasn't going to keep the old administration, and I think pretty much everyone knew that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Burford should have been named. Yeah, right. Burford should have been named ahead of all the other people that he's named. And Burford is a really good guy. I'm sure that Burford and some of the others are mad at the stance I've come out with this fire-based EMS situation. I hope they realize that it's not a personal thing. There's no way. I said that at that meeting. You have people that for various reasons, right or wrong, maybe different situations, maybe not everybody likes the police, and that you'll get people that are like that. I'm not like that, but there are people like that.
Oh, of course.
But nobody's got
Firemen
problems.
give them tickets.
Yeah, right. But nobody's got problems with firemen. Everybody, no one's out here saying, "Wow, we don't want the firemen to have a good place to sleep. We hope they get cancer because of the smoke." Nobody's saying that. Everybody is saying they need a place to stay. They need to have privacy. They need to have a place where they can hang their gross things up after a call, or you go someplace and you get smoke on you. You go to an accident scene, you get blood or you get automotive fluid and stuff. You need that to be separate from the living quarters. There's nobody that doesn't understand that, but common sense has to come into it. And when you have sitting city council members saying, "I don't want this to be political," and then in that same breath they're saying, "It's a shame if those firemen have to spend another night." Well, why are we saying that? Because even if you guys would have voted that through in 10 minutes, it's going to be a year and a half until those firemen are out of there. It's not like you guys are going to vote, they're snap their fingers, and the problem is taken care of tomorrow. So if it's going to be a year and a half out, what's a year and a half and 3 more months or 2 more months? You know what I mean? That's all I was saying from the very get-go. We were, at the time that was brought up, we were 42 days away from the election. Let it roll until the election and let the next administration, whether that's the same administration or a new administration, deal with it. That's common sense.
And you brought up some very valid points, last week on, building is building. I went out to open bid.
Yeah.
And, why couldn't we have done that with, the fire station?
Yeah.
And I have nothing against Greg Marks.
Right.
I spent time before that meeting and time after that meeting talking to him. Nice gentleman. And he even told me, he said, "I am glad you're asking the questions. I'll be here as much as I need to be. There should be no qualms about this. You should be very informed. The public should be informed. The taxpayers should be informed on what's going on here and how we're doing it and all this." And he said, "You asked very good questions." And, but, again, it's not personal, it's business. If there's a better, and, one of the things I asked him, I said, "Now your name was on the new Justice Center, and RQAW was on that. But then there was BW Development, and there's a lot of problems out there." He said, "Well, I'm not going to use BW Development."
Yeah.
But I talked to people out there to Justice Center, and they told me all the problems they've been having. And look at the millions of dollars they spent on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we can somehow figure out a way to do it and do it right and do it to where we're not inflating the price, or where it can be inflated on the price. And when you give somebody carte blanche, you say, "Okay, you got," I'm just going to throw out a round figure, $8 million to spend. They're going to spend it.
Sure, absolutely.
They're going to spend that $1 million.
Yeah.
And it's I believe anyway, and I think we need to find where it's bid and a proposal.
Yes.
And do it that way, because I'll tell you, the labor guys I talk to are very leery of the bot and the way it's being done.
Yes.
And they would have been there at that committee meeting, but they had a board meeting and all that. And I said, "Well, when we have another meeting, you guys need to be there and ask your questions." And I encourage people from the neighborhoods here.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody to ask questions, because nobody wants to see that fire station the way it is and down, possibly if we have a flood.
Yeah.
And that station will be down.
Yeah.
And we don't need that over here, but we do need to get them what they need. And, different firemen told me different things they'd like to see them get. Now, you only got so much in the budget, and as well as I do, public safety, police and fire is the biggest part of your budget.
Sure.
That's the services that is provided to the city. And those people put their lives on the line every time they go out and they need whatever the best that we can give them. And it didn't bother me a bit to get them a raise. I hope they keep it. I hope that's not a, a ploy.
Right.
But they deserve that. And, there's a lot of lateral transfers of people getting trained here, going somewhere else. And, the EMS, they're doing a lot of runs. I think, 17,000 a year?
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, that's working those guys a lot.
Yeah.
So, but, and again, I appreciate being on the show and
ain't no problem
rambling on, but I want to say this. I have been on the council. December meeting will be my last meeting. It's stressful sometimes. If you do it right, it's rewarding. I can go to sleep every night and say I've done the best I could. I have enjoyed being involved in the neighborhood associations in my district. I've met a lot of good people. I just had somebody today get a hold of me and ask me about a stop sign. I mean, I have never not taken a call from anybody, and I've been transparent. I tell people sometimes I'm too transparent, if that's possible. But I've enjoyed it. Honestly, I don't think I'd ever want to do it again. I don't like the politics of it. I don't like going out there and asking people to help me. I don't like asking people to donate. I don't like asking people to do things. And I got to say, when I started out the campaign, my campaign manager was the late Lisa Meir. And I got to say, God rest her soul.
Yeah.
One of the sweetest ladies I ever knew. And she was also my vice precinct committeeman. She had been a precinct committeeman before me, and she helped show me a lot of the ropes. And I feel like we got a lot done. And when her health was bothering her and her arm was hurting her so bad and everything, and she had to kind of back down from my campaign, she felt worse about it than I did. She was more worried about the campaign than I was. And I said, Lisa, your health is a lot more important than my campaign. Trust me. And, don't feel bad about it at all. We got this. We'll do what we need to do. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. And when she texted me, probably a little over a month, well, probably about 6 weeks ago, that she got the bad news that she wasn't going to make it, she asked me to keep it kind of quiet, but it broke my heart. It really did. She was a great person. Everybody liked her, Democrats and Republicans both. But one thing I feel good about Chris is when I had fundraisers, and you've probably seen pictures of this.
Oh, yeah.
I had a lot of many Republicans as I did Democrats supporting me.
Right.
As a matter of fact, my wife had stickers made up Republicans for Overbey. A lot of people was wearing them. But people know that I'm a moderate Democrat. I'm a common sense Democrat. And, that made me feel good. It wasn't just party politics. It was like people, unfortunately, we had a bad turnout in the spring and I didn't make it through, but that's okay. I don't like how some things were done and some of the negative campaigning, but I guess you're going to have that in this world. You got to live with it. But I just, I don't think I'd ever want to do it again.
Well,
getting old too.
right. That does happen. I guess it's better than the alternative.
Yeah.
So, well, I appreciate you for coming on and talking with us, and you're as always welcome anytime. Would definitely love to have you on and pick your brain, but I thank you for coming on and talking with us, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
We'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm going to work my poll. I'm going to help Councilman Dishman because some people in his district come over there, and I offered to help, some other folks, but he's the only one that's got back with me. But I'm anxious. I'll be glad when it's over. I'll put it that way. I'm not in the running, but I'll be glad when it's over, and I hope it pans out. And whatever happens, I hope we get good leadership for the city and people that's fiscally responsible for the taxpayers and want to do a good job for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping for. And we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Roger Overbey, Councilor for the 6th District in Muncie. He is a councilor that is going out. He will be going out December 31st. He ran for re-election and did not make it through the primary. So he will be going out in December, but he's been someone that's been around on both sides of the aisle, primarily on the Democrat side for quite some time. And there's things that he's done that people's like. There's been things that he's done that people's not like. I have definitely agreed with his stance on the city engineer, inspector, the fire department situation. And so I think that was, I think that he's had a lot of important, important voice in the last several months on the council. And so that's been important. So it's just we've been on here about an hour. We're going to go a little bit longer and then get ready to roll off. I just wanted to bring up, it obviously is the night before the election, ladies and gentlemen. So that means tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. it begins. If you are in Muncie, which is Delaware County, if you are in Anderson, which is Madison County, if you are in Winchester, which is Randolph County, if you are in Newcastle, which is Henry County, and you need a ride, hell, I guess if you're in Indianapolis, if you need a ride and you cannot get to your election, please contact me. Get a hold of me through social media. Get a hold of me however you can get a hold of me. Contact the community page here on YouTube and let me know. We will reach out and try to get you a ride. We'll work with you. Definitely here in East Central Indiana. We'll do what we can to help get you there. It's very important that people know this, and I want to make sure everyone knows. Number one, if you are a felon, felons can vote. Don't let someone tell you if you've been registered and for whatever reason you may be a felon. Felons can vote. You can vote. You can vote Republican. You can vote Democrat. You can vote Libertarian. It's also important that you understand that if you go to the voting center, you go to your polling place tomorrow, and you show up, you need to have your ID with you. You need to have your driver's license, your identification card. You need to have your state ID card with you. Please have that with you. Go prepared. You got to go prepared. If you go there and they say that there is an issue, they tell you that you need to be going down the road to vote. Listen, if you show up and they say, "Oh, hey, no, your polling place," you say for example, you show up at Union Chapel Church. I think that's still 48. Say you show up there and they say, "No, you're not here. You're at the Area Career Center." And if you can drive there and you don't mind to drive from where you're at to where you're at, drive and do it. Go there and vote. If you are not driving, or if you have some kind of issue, you're elderly or sick, whatever, if there's some kind of issue and you get to your polling location and they tell you that there's an issue, that there's a problem, and you cannot vote, a lot of times people will say, "Okay, well, thanks," and leave. And then they'll find out later that they could have voted through a provisional ballot and sorted it out later. If you're at a polling place and they tell you that you cannot vote, do not leave. Go outside and contact me. Text me, call me, do whatever you got to do. Get a hold of me, because we will get in contact with the voting room. We'll get in contact with the clerk's office. We will get in contact with the Secretary of State's office, so those people can be told you can vote provisionally, and then you can sort it out later. If later you need to have an ID, if later you got to do it somewhere, we'll do that. But do not let them turn you away and then just say, okay, screw it, I'm not going to do it, I'm not voting. Do not do that. I had someone tell me today that I can't vote because they're a felon. I said, yeah. Well, yeah, obviously, if you're a felon and you haven't registered, if you're not registered, you can't vote. And I will be telling you tomorrow, any government ID, any state government ID will work. Passport, driver's license, state ID card. I think military ID will work. So let's think here. What else was I wanting to tell y'all? I told you my predictions. I told you who I think's going to win the day tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. I've put out, for those of you that are interested, if maybe you do not know, I don't know if you're aware, I have put this out because a couple people had asked after the videos that we had done on the community crossings grant. They had said, wait a minute, didn't he do this last time? You mean we missed it this time and last time? I said, yes, I've done videos to that extent, showing that this has been an issue repeatedly. So please be aware. And I have put that out so you guys can watch that this evening. Still yet, you can watch it tomorrow before you vote. I'm going to share that with you and just let you see where that is. Give me a second here. Let me get that pulled up. Okay, here we are. Okay. For example, Jack. Okay, here's the first video. No match for Muncie, Wednesday, April 12th, 2023, round number 1. Ridenour's administration missed out on the first round of 2023 community crossings grant monies from the state of Indiana. Muncie lost out on between $500,000 and $1 million during that first round. Here's Ridenour's little head down there. Here's the city hall. Here's all the money we missed out on. Look back there. The city of Muncie was awarded $0. All right. And you can find that. That's video 1, part 1. No community crossings grant monies for Muncie round 1. All right. Video number 2 is this. Political Spotlight, Muncie's 2023 round 1 community crossings snafu. The first video, I break the news and I have some questions. Then in the 7-day period between video 1 and video 2, I had asked questions of my sources at the governor's office, at the Indiana Department of Transportation, and I got responses back from the city of Muncie. So in video 2, I answer all of the questions that we had that remained from video 1. So it's a good trade-off. Video 1 is there and is viewable. Video 2, and then of course video 3 is the video from just a couple days ago from November 3rd called Left on the Table, episode 71. And this was a live episode where we talked about Mayor Ridenour's money that he left on the table because in round 2, we did not pick up any more money there, and he did not receive either 500,000 to 1 million. So you guys are aware, between April and October, Dan Ridenour lost out on $1 million of community crossings money. Not a good thing. All right. It's not a good thing. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind, we're going to have to be paying $1 million for his Center in Crisis at the Workman's Bar at 809 West 8th Street. Keep in mind that we're putting out to bid a pole barn for the street department out on Kilgore. That's going to be upwards of $1 million. Keep in mind that we need to do something with all of the aging fire departments. Definitely the first couple right off the bat, but we need to do something with all of the aging fire departments. So there's a lot going on. And then, hell, that's not even to mention the fact that we don't know what's going on with Southway Plaza. We do not know what's going on with Till Pond. We do not know what's going on with the skater park. We do not know what's going on with all of that situation. We don't know what's going on with the Michael Street Horizon Apartments location. That property is still owned by the company that tried to scam us. So we don't know what's happening there. We don't, it's like Ridenour just forgets all of that. Once the picture is there, once the bells are rang and he gets the good word, hip hip hooray, on all of the projects that are coming Muncie's way, there's no follow through on all of the chaos and nonsense that are left in the aftermarket of what he does. So keep that in mind. Melanie Munson. You mean Belinda. Belinda Munson. She didn't profit 80 grand. She got $10,000 profit, but she also held on to the liquor license. She held on to the liquor license, which will get her. She bought the property for 60. She bought it for 50, sold it for 60, and then ECIBG sold it for 135 from the city. However, so she made $10,000 profit in the matter of a month or two, and then she also kept the liquor license. So whenever she goes to sell that liquor license, that's where she'll make her killing. So it is, it's up, and that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Oh, also, the other thing is, keep in mind, the man that made the back half of yesterday's article, Dustin Clark, he's the gentleman that is the full-time city employee and the contracted helper, making basically 2 job salaries from the city of Muncie during one 8-hour day, during one 40-hour week. What, you tell me how that works? He was her business partner. It wasn't just Belinda Munson. It was Belinda Munson and Dustin Clark. Dustin Clark was involved with that. So keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, the last thing I want to talk about tonight before we leave here is this. I got 2 things I'm going to say, and we're going to get out of here. I'm not going to go into detail on this because I don't want to take the attention off tomorrow's election day. But at 9 o'clock tomorrow night, when we know who wins everything, when the dust is settled and we've torn open all the gifts and we're sitting around and we're all sleeping after the Christmas Day rush, you know how that is. After the election day rush is over and we're all sitting around, the election 2024 starts in earnest right then. Honestly, it started weeks ago, months ago. And one of the things that I'm going to be harping on, and I'm going to be harping on quickly, are the Delaware County Commissioners. There are going to be 2 commissioners that are up for re-election. One of them is James King. It is time for him to go. It's time for King to go. The other is not the other cowboy kid commissioner, but it's their sleepy sister, Sherry Riggin. She is also up for re-election. And from what I'm hearing right now, both of those tools are running for re-election. King is running for re-election for whatever reason, and Sherry's running for re-election. And I tell you, I keep hearing everybody say that she says, oh, I just can't say anything against them. It doesn't matter what I want. They just do what they want to do. Okay, then, Sherry, it's time to get the hell out of the way and let somebody else step up to the plate that will be able to push back against their nonsense. You don't push back. Look, 2 votes, 2-1 is a passing vote. So you're right. If they want to vote on something, you're the odd duck out. That being said, there's something to be said for preserving the record, for getting on record the voice of opposition. And that is important in politics. So I don't know if she's actually running for re-election or not. If she does, it's time to send her packing. And if James King is truly running, it's definitely time to send him packing. We need to get on that ball. I want to let you guys know that they were talking about the solar ordinance today. They had a meeting this morning, and we will go over this probably Wednesday night. So tomorrow night at 9, we'll focus on the election. But then Wednesday, we'll focus on the commissioners meeting that occurred today. Because the Planning Commission voted last week on this. They voted to push the ordinance through. There wasn't enough time for it to be on the agenda, so the commissioners did not talk about it on their agenda. That being said, there were several people in the audience that went to voice their concerns. And at the very end of the meeting, James King started wanting to talk. And at first I was happy. I was like, oh my, he's really going to do this right. After all this time and after all my knocking him, he's going to do something right. So the Delaware County Commissioners and the Delaware County government is back to considering this solar ordinance, specifically for the company trying to put the solar farm in Washington Township or the Gaston area in Delaware County, but it will affect all of the county. And at today's meeting, commissioner meeting at 9 o'clock this morning, Commissioner James King said a couple strange things. First of all, he said to stop the solar, people need to stop signing leases. He then went on to say he hasn't been able to see a lease. He said that most of the leases were signed before the commissioners even knew about this, which, let's face it, that's pretty normal. That's par for the course. That's what these companies do. They try to keep this tight-lipped until it's all done. They're all very hush-hush. That's why we don't need a commissioner's office or the council or any government to keep this hush-hush. They are there to protect us from them. That was a very strange stance for King to take. I'm not sure seeing one or more of the leases would or even should have anything to do with the way that the commissioners vote on a solar ordinance. This ordinance really has nothing to do with leases. So it was almost as if Commissioner King was attempting to pass the buck from the commissioners to the citizens. The commissioners need to draft an ordinance and vote on it like they would any and all other ordinances. They need to vote on it in the best way that helps protect and benefit the majority of the Delaware County citizens, not a small select group of them, not their buddies, not their pocket purse strings, but the most amount of Delaware County citizens possible, the majority. The biggest issue I have with Commissioner King's display at the meeting then was how he ended it, like the petulant little child that he in fact is. For a moment, I was kind of happily surprised. Commissioner King was speaking at the end of the meeting, and a few citizens commented and were talking back to him, at which point I was ready for him to get mad and stop them. But instead of yelling at them or gaveling them down or ending the meeting, he let them talk for a minute. Commissioner King and one of the citizens had a bit of a back and forth, which is perfectly fine. That's how it goes sometimes. That's what government is. Honestly, I was happy to see that. But then, almost as soon as it had started, Commissioner King got upset. He made some stupid-ass comment about him not getting to speak. I wanted to speak like you guys, but since I'm not going to, I'll just make a motion to recess, which I don't understand. These commissioners need to quit recessing. They need to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. What are they recessing so they can then meet illegally at some point? That's stupid. Adjourn the meeting, put the meeting in play, or take it out of play. You're not recessing the meeting, you idiots. When he made the motion, the president, Cowboy Kid Commissioner Henry, looked over at Sherry Riggin, almost as to say, it's okay, we need your second. But this time she didn't second it. And boy, you should have seen the glare that Henry gave her. If he could have melted her face off with his eyeballs, he would have done so. He stared right through her, and I had such a problem. It was gross the way that he was looking at her. It was disgusting. That should piss people off. How dare him? Who the hell does he think he is? He is no one. Henry, let me say this for you, buddy old pal. You are nobody. Look at me like that. I'll come up there. You can look at me like that. It was gross. So he realized that he wasn't going to be able to stare her into submission. So he then went ahead and he was like, well, I'll make the motion. I'll make the second then. And he made the second, and voila, 2-1, they left the meeting. Just ignorant. It was just gross. I want to be clear here. It is important that the commissioners, or any elected or appointed officials for that matter, be able to speak and conduct business without a constant or nonsensical interruption. But that's not what was happening today. What was happening today was back and forth. Now, I do think that the speaker should have been at the podium and he should have been on the record for people to hear, but he was almost speaking loud enough that if you listen close enough, you can hear what was being said. And I appreciate at first that King was letting him do that. But then when he was telling King, your job is to protect us, King's little tiny ego got in the way, or his massive ego, whichever way you want to say it. His insecurities got the better of him. And he was like, well, these people can't tell me my job's to storm out of here. I make a motion. So he made himself and the other commissioners look foolish today. When are they going to learn? When will the citizens of Delaware County learn? Better commissioners are needed. Remember, Commissioner King and Commissioner Riggin are up for re-election next year. Their election starts tomorrow at 9 p.m. Okay? The meeting is out. It's on my wall. We'll watch it on Wednesday. We'll talk about it. We'll dissect it. But I'm telling you, folks, these people are going to just continue being the same people that they've always been until we put a freaking stop to them. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be really honest about tomorrow. I'm not happy with a lot of things. I am not happy with a lot of things. I think a lot of it is crazy. I think a lot of the people running tomorrow could be better. The big man trying. Chris, you need to look into business called Advanced Property Solutions, LLC. Rick Spangler and Ed Carroll are promoting the business rentals. Yes. I have looked at that. They are tied to that. It's something really weird with them. I have been looking into it. I will be looking into it. I will continue looking into it. And yes, I agree with you. So I will look into that. And I'll let you know, because that is tied. That's the other thing. The very last thing, the Republican Party is nearly broken. It was said recently that the Republicans are having a hard time doing anything because Ed Carroll has a full-time job he must do, and they all of the party upper echelon, they've got other things, and so they can't worry about what they need to be doing. The Republican Party needs to figure it the hell out. It's ridiculous what's going on. Okay. Yeah, let me know. You're always free. If you want to make an anonymous email and email me, you can email me at khbilbrey@gmail.com. You're always free to text or call me. I don't know if you want to hide your who you are from me, that's perfectly fine. If you don't want to, I won't burn who you are. I don't burn sources. You've obviously been watching, or you're well enough along in here that I don't burn people. So if you want to hide yourself from me, that's perfectly fine. If you choose to let me know who you are and you contact me without alias or whatever, I won't burn you. It's up to you completely. Do what you want to do. Do what I know you're not. I know you're not hiding. Yes, you said I don't mean that bad. I don't mean that bad. I'm not implying that you're hiding. Look, some people get shit. I get it. So I'm not. I didn't mean that bad. I know how it is. So. Yeah, get a hold of me, definitely. I'm cool with that. My number is 765-546-9796. 765-546-9796. If all you people start calling me, there's no hiding from Kristopher. Better have a VPN. Hey, the very last thing I want to say, I was very, very saddened tonight, right before I got on the show. It's Dustin is not related. No, there is no relation between those two. In Winchester, this like honestly broke my heart. I got on Facebook, and I was thumbing through Facebook, and I noticed when I lived in Winchester, my ex was friendly with this woman, and I was friends with her on Facebook from when I ran in Winchester. I just added everybody that lived there, and so I didn't know her from Adam. But 7 years ago, she got on and made a horrible post that a lot of people just absolutely, it's just sick. It's just horrible. It's very sad. She got on and made a post that her 13-year-old son was diagnosed with glioblastoma, brain cancer. And anybody that knows anything about glioblastoma, it is a very fast acting. It's just a bitch of a cancer. The survival rate to live with glioblastoma is just like a year and a half. And those people fought that cancer, that 13-year-old little boy. I could not imagine having a 13-year-old boy and hearing that they've got cancer. And just to think about what that would be. And they fought that cancer, and that kid literally went through hell and back. And he fought that cancer. He kicked its ass. I mean, he really battled that. And they were told on July 2nd, 7 years ago, 7 years ago on July 2nd, they were told that his survival chances were about a year and 8 months. And he blew past that. They said that she wouldn't get to see him drive. He wouldn't go to prom. He wouldn't graduate, and all of that stuff. And fortunately, he was able to have a lot of good time with his parents, his mother, his friends and family. And they were able to have a lot of Christmases, a lot of birthdays with him. And he was able to get his driver's license. And he had, just an amazing life. He passed away this evening at 5:31 p.m., surrounded by friends and family. So he lost his battle. It was Devin Loudy was his name. He was 20 years old. So just absolutely a horrible situation. So my thoughts and prayers are with that family. And, they're just going through absolute hell tonight. So keep them in your thoughts and your prayers. So cancer's a bitch. All right. Good night. Happy Election Day Eve, everybody. Happy. Good night, folks. Oh, I'll stay at various points tomorrow. So be looking. I don't know when or what or whatever, but I'll keep you guys posted. I will be on at 9 p.m. tomorrow, but I will be on at various points throughout the day. I'll also take some still video as well. So static video. All right. Now we'll do it. Bye.